Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to talk. We're going to be talking about a mass mailer solution for nonprofits and specifically for Salesforce. My name is Madison Cloutier. I'm one of the senior account managers here at MassMailer. Also with me today is Siva Devaki, who's actually the founder and president of MassMailer. So we've actually been Salesforce partners for over 10 years now. As a part of we've done lots of implementations and the like. And during that time, we've learned a lot about Salesforce and have built some different apps for the App Exchange to overcome some of the shortcomings of Salesforce. And MassMailer by far has been one of our most popular things on the App Exchange. Just real quickly, you guys are all with nonprofits. You know how you use mass emailings for fundraising, renewal notices, and the like. So you know how that works. Some of the major advantages that the feedback we're getting regarding MassMailer is it's easy to use and scalable, and I think you'll see when Siva does the demo here in a few minutes. Because this is a native Salesforce app, it has the look and feel of Salesforce, and it is very scalable. I mean, we have some customers that only have one user license. We have some customers with like 400 user licenses. So it's a very scalable solution. We provide a lot of statistics. We can support the opt-ins, opt-out for different groups. This has become a very popular feature, mainly because you can have different subscription groups set up. And so if somebody unsubscribes, they can just unsubscribe or opt out of a particular group, and it doesn't knock them out of all the groups. So you have a lot more flexibility there in dealing with subscription groups. We also support drip campaigns and can do file attachments. And I'm sure, as everybody knows, Salesforce is a great CRM, is the best in the world, and no question about that. But when it comes to the mass emails, it does have some limitations, and these are some of the things that we've really focused on overcoming with MassMailer. I think the big thing a lot of people run into is this 5,000 emails per day, the fact they get limited statistics from that, and spam and delivery issues. We address that through dedicated IPs, so you don't have to use the shared IPs of Salesforce. Another big thing we do is we do allow email alerts through the workflows. I've already mentioned the preferences for this groups. And then we can control what the email sender email address, instead of like so via something. You can control that, so it makes it personalize things a whole lot better. Of course, we do support HTML, and we do work with the Salesforce templates too. So if somebody builds a Salesforce template, we can actually utilize those. Plus, we have our own if you want to do something a little bit fancier. And then the workflows are a big thing too. We got some people doing some pretty sophisticated things with workflows, and I'll talk about one of those here in just a second. And there's a number of advantages, just being the fact that MassMailer is a native app. It is a 100% native app. So you can send information directly out of the database. Statistics and things go directly back into the database. And probably the big thing about this too, being a native app, gives you a lot more flexibility. You can actually get at the APIs, and if you have some fairly specific business things that you need to do or business cases you need to support, we can do those, and a lot of people are doing some interesting things in those areas. And then just quickly, before I give it to Siva, typically this is where we have one of our customers gives a little talk about their experience. Because of our time limit here, we won't be able to do this. But I did just want to mention the San Francisco Zen Center is a large nonprofit in San Francisco. And they were using a Constant Contact, and we're having some issues with it, mainly because they wanted to set up some automated workflows, which because Constant Contact is not a native app, they were unable to do that. So they ended up, looking around. They got MassMailer, and then once they were able to set up a workflows, so they can start sending out emails before renewal. Review and expirations were taking place, so they could send those out, and then depending on whether people paid or not, that was all part of the workflow. They could stop it or continue sending up to the last. So that was a big time saver for them, and has really done a great job of helping them improve their renewals and getting the donations they want. And the other interesting thing too, this is what was interesting, because they were using Constant Contact, the way that works is it creates a file for the opt-outs, which then needed to be loaded into Salesforce in order to get that recorded. And they were complaining this is one of the problems they were having because they always forgot to do it or didn't get done on time. And so they were getting hit with spam and some blacklisted stuff. And so me going with MassMailer, when people opt out, that is immediately updated in the database. So nothing else goes out for that. So that really does a long ways for helping with the reputation. And so just like I said, that was a pretty quick thing, and I want to get Siva with the demo here. But just before I hand it over to Siva, any, I guess, questions about just the MassMailer in general?
No, not at the moment, thank you.
Okay. So, Siva, we'll be turning it over to you then. You got it?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you so much, Martin.
Okay. Surely.
All right. I hope you all can see my screen here, right? Okay. Is there a preference? Should I do it in Classic or Lightning? Any preference?
Classic or Lightning, any preference? Lightning, please.
All right, okay. I'll switch to Lightning.
We've all had this happen to us, haven't we? There we go.
Yeah. Once it loads up once, after that it's going to be faster. Okay, all right. Almost there.
I love that the tail is wagging.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the call today, and thanks for the opportunity given to us. So I'll quickly go through a few important features that Madison spoke about. The main thing is the mass email feature. So you can send mass emails via MassMailer. There's a couple of ways that you could do. One is the email wizard, and you click on this tab, which is going to let you select one of these three objects. An example, you want to send out emails to leads for certain purposes, such as donations, newsletters, whatnot. And you have to select the recipients here, and you have an option to select one of the existing views that you have created via the MassMailer app, or you could actually go build a brand new view. And you have an option to clone, you have an option to edit as well. So let's say we want to go create a view. You click on that link, and that brings up a page where you can actually give a name to the view. For example, just say demo view, and you can apply the filters, such as the email. An example, I pick equals, and give a value to that, and I can actually preview the results by clicking on this link button at the bottom of the screen. It shows up the actual result, partial result. If I'm satisfied, I would just go save, and that becomes my the target list view. Yeah, and the next step is to select the actual template itself. So you click on next, and then you have an option to select a folder. And this folder is nothing but the Salesforce email template folders. So for example, we select MassMailer Demo as a folder, and then you can select the template. So these templates, again, they're all stored back in Salesforce. So you go select a template. And you may notice there is a basic editor, advanced editor option. So it defaults to whatever the editor that we actually use to create this template. And I'll talk about advanced editor in a moment. Once you have loaded, you just go next. And you have certain information such as who would be the sender. It could be the logged in user, global sender, lead owner, or the contact owner, if it's a contact, organization-wide address. So there are several options. And this is editable. This is completely editable, meaning you can change the name, the email address, and the reply to all of them. And also you could do BCC to the sender, or you can also do a global BCC that is set up in the MassMailer setup. If you have like an email address you want to copy always. And then Madison talked about this email group. You can actually have the email preferences groups that you created, such as donor email communication, newsletter, youth programs, so on and so forth. And anyone who unsubscribes to any of this list, they would not receive it if you select any of the group. So basically, if you say, hey, I want to send it to all, so you just say none. But if you want to make sure that like somebody is not interested, let's say youth program, right? And your email is related to the youth program and you want to select this, that way those people who are not interested in youth program, they would not receive it. So that's the kind of a concept. And then you have an option to send it now, or you can actually schedule it on a specific date and time. You can also do a test email. You can preview template. So let's just go ahead and say send now and submit. So once the email gets submitted, a couple of things happen. The first thing is the statistics. So we actually store the statistics in a custom object if you send the email via the wizard. And here you can actually see the opens and clicks, bounces, all of that, like the standard statistics that you can think of for any mass email. Like you can see that in a moment. Like requested, delivered, clicks, opens, clicks, and all of that, unsubscribes. And then we have like the real-time stats coming up, and also the one that gets updated in a batch mode every few minutes. So this is kind of real-time, it's refreshing. And the other thing what happens is on the lead, the one that we just try to leverage in this particular mass email, we'll also get the email status results, such as opens and clicks, are logged as a related list to this lead. So you would see this MassMailer email status can load up. So it looks something like this. You can actually drill down and see what particular event is all about and what time it took place. So, for example, this was delivered, and also it flags the time and date and time, right? It also shows what is the template subject and what is the mass email that you actually used. All of that gets captured right there on the leader contact itself. We also log the activity history. So the activity history gets logged right there as one email has been sent and what email it is. And the events could be opens and clicks. Every single event gets logged right there. And if someone unsubscribes to the email that you sent, that gets flagged as well. This is what Martin was mentioning, that in constant contact with other programs is always going to be a synchronization issue. But here, within MassMailer, this email opt-out actually gets updated automatically. And also the invalid lead also gets flagged if at all there's any hard bounce or the email is invalid or somebody flagged it as spam. the synology gets back. And any of these two flags are checked, we automatically suppress those emails from emailing. And the email that we sent looks like a regular email. And again, if you have followed the email authentication, you would actually see that the email is sent via the domain that you have actually authenticated. Otherwise, it would show the server domain that we have, right? And there we go. Yeah, sometimes it may take time because the Salesforce is actually taking time to really schedule the job behind the scenes. Sometimes it happens. Yeah? And that's one feature, right? The mass email feature. And the actual template builder, which I was going to talk about, which is an advanced template builder, I'll touch base on that real quick, because it's very important for most of the business users, especially if they're not techie savvy and if they don't want to really create any HTML template. You can leverage the template builder, which is more like a drag and drop, and then you can, you can basically create HTML template using drag and drop features, and then use this as a template in mass email. So the way you would do it is very simple. All you need to do is, okay, you want to create a template. It can be any folder. This is just a demo. And then you say, hey, I want to create a brand new template. And we have provided certain like MassMailer templates, which are basically just a basic template. You can update what we have given to you, or you can actually just go build from scratch, like based on your layout, whatever you can think of, right? So for example, let's give it a name. We call this as June 9 newsletter, 19 newsletter, and subject. And it just loaded the basic layout that we already provided. And you can see that there are certain images in certain sections, and then there could be a button, links, and all of that, right? So let's say you want to change this logo, an example. All you need to do is select that. And on the right-hand side, we show the actual image, and you say change image. And then you can upload an image from your desktop, or you can actually pick one of them. Let's say you want to upload something from your desktop. So you just have to say, hey, I'm going to pick the logo from there, and that gets uploaded to the server. And then you just have to insert that logo so that we can replace that image, right? And that gets replaced. And similarly, this is a text component. So if you want to edit it, all you need to do is highlight that, and then just type in, and then that's as simple as that. And on the right-hand side, you can actually see certain properties it's showing. So, for example, you want to change the color. You just have to, select what color it would be. And if there's a link, you can also change the color. And you have all the options of, how to really format it, like whether it is left aligned, right aligned, all of that. And similarly, for example, you have a button, and button properties are such that you may want to have a link that is going to your website, an example, and then you just have to type in whatever the link may be. Or you can actually just say, hey, I want to send an email, and select that, and type in what email address is, and what could be the subject and the body, right? And that's how simple is that, right? That way you really don't have to know the HTML, right? Once And the interesting thing is that you have option to drag and drop these rows. For example, you want to add an additional row right here. Just start to drag and drop, and that row is added. You can select what is that row going to contain. It could be just a divider, right? And then the rows could be one element, multiple elements. It could be 3 elements, 4 elements. So various sizes and options are given. And also for the content element itself, we have options which are the basic necessary content elements such as text, image, button, divider, social, HTML, and video. So if you really need to have some sort of a small HTML snippet, maybe for your footer, you just create one and once and then drag and drop that HTML component. And the social component is also interesting. So you can add more social elements from here, or you can actually delete any of them, and you can update what link it would be. All of that you can do. Also, the video is another interesting thing. So if you have any video, all you have to do is say, I have a video right there, and I'm going to have the video URL. So you just have to select the component and add your video URL, and you're good to go, right? So this is basically a very easy way to create advanced templates. So once you have done created your template, you can keep saving this in the editor. And then if you want to save it to the Salesforce, then you just have to say, hey, I want to save it to Salesforce, and that will save it to the actual Salesforce email template folder. Right? I'll stop there, ask if you have any questions, because I know we don't have much time left, maybe another less than 10 minutes. So any questions so far?
Yes?
What's the advantage of having the IP address?
What's the advantage of having the IP address?
So we strongly recommend that you get an IP address because shared IP address is always prone to have issues with the reputation, because you don't know, shared IP meaning if you have, say, 10 clients or 20 clients, we may just give them a shared IP address, right, based on the volume. And who knows what they're sending. And that impacts the reputation of the IP, and eventually it hits the domain. So we don't recommend using shared IP, even though we have a lot of customers using it. So we strongly recommend using a dedicated IP address.
Okay. Any more questions? Yeah.
So I was going to ask one about the dreaded word or 4 words GDPR. And I noticed that you're using the standard email opt-out field, but I think for the most part people opt in and then opt out at more granular levels. So for example, I might say, don't send me any more emails about soliciting donations, but do send me emails about volunteering opportunities. And so can your system cater for that, not using the standard Salesforce, but also having those opt-in and opt-outs at a more granular level, let's say a brand or a different way of grouping those opt-in and opt-outs?
Did you hear all that?
It was very hard for me. Actually, no, it was very hard. So can you please repeat? Can someone else close to the audio please repeat that?
So it was about GDPR and the data consent questions in the tool, and whether or not those could be mapped to a user's actual other settings. So you think it perhaps connecting with the individual object?
Yeah, potentially.
So as we all know, Salesforce already have the GDPR implemented. If your organization has implemented GDPR in certain ways, you can let us know, because we are just using the standard Salesforce fields of the email opt-out, which is tied back to the GDPR field. It's just a matter of, I mean, it's mainly the opt-out. Otherwise, rest of it is all Salesforce driven, right? And we are auto-suppressing the email opt-out any case. And we have the unsubscribe option. And when it comes to the email template, we have an option where you can actually have a footer where you can put your address and everything. So everything ties back. So right now, I mean, none of the customers have come back and said that, hey, we implemented GDPR in Salesforce. Can you map it to MassMailer? That has not happened. We kind of evaluated internally saying that, hey, it's quite possible, very simple. All we need to know, how did you implement GDPR and what do you really need to map it to? Any certain, I mean, if you have any special requirement on, hey, we need to honor so-and-so, that can be done via the process builder processes. And then still, we should be, as long as everything is mapped, tied back to the email opt-out, we should be able to auto-suppress. Okay.
Yeah. Can you map to custom fields is really what Louise was getting at.
So if you have a custom field, again, using the process builder, you can still like trigger something to update email opt-out. Because it's very hard for us to really manage the custom fields created by customer. So currently we support only the standard email opt-out field, but anything that you may have custom can be mapped back to the standard field with a, I mean, not with a formula, it can be done via the process, automatic process builder. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Any more questions?
You mentioned subscription, yeah. Nope, we're okay.
Okay, all right. So we have like, I think, a few more minutes. I'm gonna quickly show you, I think this may be something very interesting for all of you, I'm guessing. So let me just go. So when it comes to emails, especially, the reputation is the key thing, right? I mean, everybody does all the emailing and everything, and we know email verification. Even though I didn't really touch on that, we have the email verification feature as well. But you want to know whether the email that you're sending out is deliverable or not, right? And we have a feature through which you can actually test it. So, for an example, you have a campaign that is that's already created, and you have the template, and you're gonna say, hey, I'm actually gonna send an email, and this is how it's gonna look, and it is it's gonna say educational, and your recipient list may be 10,000, and you're sending it to Europe, and you have a template that you are gonna send out. You say, hey, it's gonna be English. And then the template would be one of those templates that we created. And then you say, hey, I want to test my email deliverability, right? You click on that button, and that is actually going to send it to the backend engines that we have, and it's going to give you a report on how deliverable your email is, right? And the deliverability is a score that we have, right? And it'll give you, if at all there's any problem with the actual content, or it could be a problem with the infrastructure. It'll highlight what is the actual problem, if at all there's any problem, right? So once you receive the link, we send it via the email, or also the screen that was actually like spinning the wheel. This would refresh with the results in a few minutes. Once you have the results, it's going to look something like this, in which you would know how deliverable your email is. And if there's any problem, let's say, for example, 17.68 is going to go to spam filters, it'll tell you why. It could be a content issue, and it's going to highlight if at all there's a problem with your subject or the actual body itself, and what kind of words should be avoided. And it's gonna, like, let's say avoid is a word here, right? And it's saying, hey, don't use that. and we discuss certain words like that, and we recommend that, right? So it kind of gives you some information on what you can change in the entire email itself, along with the layout. If at all there's any problem with the layout, it's actually going to highlight what the problem is, and the infrastructure. So if there is any problem with the infrastructure, it's going to highlight that, hey, your IP is not good, or domain is not good, it's blacklisted. It's going to list out which one is like blacklisted, where it is blacklisted, all of that. And also your, the SPFs, the DKIM, DMARC also gets checked always. And the compliance, this is very important, where nowadays the compliance is so granular that you want to make sure that there are no bad cookies that are being used, and also the other compliance rules are also validated. And most important, the preview. So how is your email going to look when you send it out to recipients? You don't know what kind of mail that, like the email client that they're using. It could be Gmail, Apple Mail, iPhone, Outlook. Especially Outlook is a beast, so you want to test it out on Outlook and make sure the layout is really looking good. So that way, you can have a peace of mind that, hey, it's all gonna be fine. So this is kind of a very useful tool, and nowadays a lot of our customers have started subscribing for it, for this particular feature. So we call this as email monitor. So I thought maybe it is helpful for all of you to know. Okay. Any more questions? I know we are hitting top of the hour here.
Yep, got just one question.
Uh-huh.
My question is, we'd like to send an email, say, here after someone must make a donation. That's quite difficult to do.
Okay, so question about workflow rules. Sending an email, say, a year after somebody last gave a donation. Is that something that you'd be able to do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So okay, I'm actually going to just go to the process builder and show it to you quickly. As Matt mentioned, we do support the workflow emails, but not through the Salesforce workflows, but through the Salesforce process builder. So you could actually just create a process through the process builder, and then leverage MassMailer to send out email alerts. So for example, let me just load it up real quick.
Yeah, so it's using Process Builder rather than something within MassMailer itself, yeah?
Absolutely. So Process Builder.
Yeah, that's answered our question. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem. The only difference is that the Salesforce email alert does not have a way to track, and also you won't be able to like select who would be the sender. But with MassMailer, you can actually do that. So we have several features through which you can actually send out email. Drip campaigns also is possible through Process Builder. So it's a standard process, right? So for example, you have a lead and you want to take an immediate action. So that action could be sending out a mass email alert, right? Just a regular email alert. An example, you say, hey, send out an email alert, and you say, hey, my email alert class is going to be the MassMailer email alert. And you just have to say what would be the record ID is going to be the field reference, in which you say, hey, it's going to be my lead ID, right?
Okay.
That's your record.
I think we get the gist. We probably just don't have time to go through the detail now. So that's
no
great.
Problem. Sure.
Just one last question. Are you able to talk about pricing of the app, or would you rather do that offline? Question.
So we have non-profit discount, and the basic pricing is anywhere between 1 to 5 users. It's $49.99 per user per month. And if you subscribe annual, so we give 10% discount on top of the non-profit discount. And based on the number of emails that you're going to send, I could be, 10,000 emails per month is free. But if you needed more, we have various options. It could be 25, 50, or 100K. And if you need a dedicated IP address, the price is going to be $99.99. This is per company, not per user, right? And we have the pricing for the email notification and the monitor. Yeah.
So is that two sets of cost? You've got a cost according to users and then a cost according to email send as well.
If it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Once you go over 100, and it's 10% discount for non-profits. Is that what you said? 10%?
Yeah. And
yeah.
Right.
Okay. Great.
And we have the volume discount as well. All right. Thank you so much. And if you need any further help with the trial, please let us know. Here is our contact information. Once again, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care. Yeah. Bye-bye.